Hello.
Hello. How is it going?
Hello.
No, it's all right. How are you doing?
Doing good.
It's alright, I guess.
Hello, Benjamin.
Hello.
Have I'm sorry, but I can't remember if I've seen you around before.
KubeCon and Container Days, I did a talk there. But
Okay.
I was also on the conference floor, so maybe I don't know.
I haven't been to a KubeCon since I think COVID, sadly.
Yeah, then maybe online somewhere, but then that would be the most likely place to meet me.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd been to one of these before.
I'm seeing you for the first time. Yeah.
So sorry?
I'm definitely seeing you for the first time.
Oh yeah, okay. I see.
Welcome. Not to
Hello.
interrogate you, not like who are you?
Oh no worries. It's all good. It's all good. I'm also only here because I just need my PR reviewed, man. So
Oh.
it's waiting for review for like 3 weeks now, and Stackit, the company I work for, would really like to see the work upstream to make the stuff reliable, their stuff reliable. So
Which PR is this?
oh, I'm going to send it to you. No worries. Here, this one.
3780, right?
Yeah.
Validate the
Yeah.
content.
The startup shutdown shenanigans.
Add flags reference. This is add flags reference and the 3782 you had said, right?
No, it's 3780.
80. Okay.
Yeah, no.
It's like, well, I mean, that's like good PR, but I'm not sure, like operationally why that would be a concern for people. But okay, that's.
Oh, I just found I left some diagnosing bullshit in there. Oops.
Yeah, it should be removed, but let's see. Fix webhook request getting routed.
Yeah, the canary error down there. That's don't worry about that one too much. Like we actually debugging this was really stupid. Because you basically have to like call the webhook and then in the test fixture using tilt, the bug will not occur. Or like the workaround will not get activated because they intercept sick terms and sick interrupts and replace them with sick kills, which means all of this code will not get triggered. Like the termination grace period will not get triggered, which took me like, I don't know, 3 hours or so to find out. That was fun. But yeah, fixed in the end, so it's good.
Got TLS checker. Interesting. So there's a built-in TLS checker now,
huh? I guess so, yeah.
I'm digging up old memories of the code structures. I'm reading this, so context. Background, signal notify, OS interrupt, sick term. Shutting down, waiting for 10 seconds.
Also, Also this stuff, the context with the signal interception and all of the timeout stuff. I'm maybe thinking about submitting it to controller runtime as well, because this is a shared problem that all webhooks have. All webhooks that don't deploy their pods with a explicit, it's not even a termination grace period, with something else, with the sleep before, with like a pre-stop hook that sleeps for like 10 seconds, will have unreliable webhooks on pod shutdown because the service assignment is asynchronous. So yeah, this stuff like 330 to 347, I would probably at least propose that also to controller runtime.
Yeah, this is my thought. Oh no, it's just about the webhook. Okay, because well, one thought is maybe we want to make the 10 seconds configurable, just to let people tune it.
Yes.
The other thought, but I think this is a salient difference, maybe not, is so controller runtime also has a signal handler, right?
Yes. And
Oh, and I'm just curious how these two interact. Like, I can't think of how it would be off the top of my head. Like, because I think controllers themselves stop, but I don't know if that applies to webhooks.
I mean, the controller setup signal handler was here before. That one was the one I took out and replaced it with the one. It's the same code, but it has a timeout built in. Yeah, I just stole the code and put a timeout in there somewhere because, like, seriously, this is. I wish this was a joke, but I think this is like, adding a sleep 10 seconds is, I think, the only sane way to do this.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean,
yeah.
well, configurable sleep, because yeah, who
Yeah,
knows
okay, yeah.
what the sort of
Absolutely.
resolution time of various systems are. But yeah, sorry, I had it in split screen mode and was reading the green like it was only ads. So I
No
totally
worries.
missed removal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. Especially if it's configurable, it could go to 0, right? Time.sleep 0 doesn't raise an error. If people are annoyed by the, if for whatever reason they want insta-kill.
I mean, yeah, sure. But like the interesting part about all of this is we're operating like a managed database service on Kubernetes. We have like 70 clusters full of customer databases. And like on when rolling over clusters, rolling over nodes, we get like a 1 to 2% failure rate for webhook calls, which is very interesting that this code is used in every controller and nobody like noticed it until now. Like we rewrite every pod image because we're lazy like that. So we actually are likely to trigger this issue with like some certainty, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't completely surprise me with like, are you failing closed with
No.
how you installed Gatekeeper? Okay.
No, we're failing open like the documentation recommends, and basically for various reasons. One of them being this is not the only webhook, and we want to reduce the possibility of the deadlock scenario, and basically through user error, of course. But still, like the official, like if you read through documentation how to write web servers in various languages for Kubernetes or running on Kubernetes, they all say, hey, have a graceful timeout in there. And as far as I know, Nginx is at least fast enough that it doesn't matter, or like does the thing on startup at least. But yeah.
Yeah,
Basically, everything using the controller setup, what is it, interrupt handler or whatever, is going to run into this problem with like a very low probability. But like in general, this looks sane and like make it configurable. And basically, I'll bother you again, and we'll.
Yeah, the other thing I'm looking at here is the 2 Q depth for. I guess you don't want to. Yeah, why 2? I get it doesn't matter. I guess you don't want to block on writes to the channel.
That's a very good question. I like this was 3 weeks ago. It's a long time. But if you honestly, if you compare it to the official code from the controller runtime, it's very, very similar. It's like 3-4 lines change. So I just took the signal handler. Basically, they're implementing, like, if you do Control C the first time, it there's a graceful shutdown. If you do Control C a second time, it will
That makes sense.
shut down immediately. So it's it's like basically a blocking queue here.
Okay, and that second time is probably why they have the Q depth. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Kitty. No, this totally makes sense. Sorry, it's taken a while.
Oh,
and yeah,
no worries. All good.
try to get the controller runtime folks to to add their own sleeve.
I just linked to the code in control runtime. Maybe that's what you're talking about, Benjamin?
You mean for the setup signal handler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Might be good to just add a comment about it and link to it.
Oh yeah. I will.
I'll just add a comment there. Sorry for the late PR review. It's just been pretty hectic.
It's all good. It's all good. We have it mitigated in production right now mostly. So and our on-call knows what's up. So it's all good. We just want to get the dirty hack out of there.
So if you're failing open, what is if you don't mind me asking, what is causing the alerts? Is it just your monitoring metrics for like?
Actually, our metric, we didn't know what was happening there. We just saw that we have some we use Gatekeeper in a we just use it to rewrite image tags. We use it to rewrite image tags from the Docker registry to like from the official Docker hub to our private mirror. Reason for that being our managed Kubernetes offering does not offer private registries and registry proxying right now. That's something that's not configurable right now. So we did it with Gatekeeper. And what we noticed at some point is that if you look at our like Prometheus metrics, there are some pods running an image that is not from our registry. It has a tag that's directing to Docker Hub or Quay or something else. And basically, we in most of our environments that didn't make a big difference because we haven't air-gapped them yet. But we have an air-gapped private environment for a government customer that is completely air-gapped. So if you don't rewrite the image, the image pulls fail. And at some point, some on-call guy was like, "Hey, why is that pod not coming up?" And like noticed that the image tag was different. And that's basically how we found out that there's like this problem on startup and shutdown with webhooks, that they are not reliable in these scenarios.
I see. And so it wasn't actually the tag specifically in this case too. It was the repo not getting rewritten that caused
yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I would look out for there's the mutating so like there's validating admission policy in core Kubernetes. They're adding mutating admission policies. That's not going to help you with rewriting the image tags, right? Because that requires accessing an external data store. Ow, sorry, my cat. But you can at least guarantee that the repo gets rewritten if it's a well-defined image repository that everything's supposed to get pulled from.
Sorry, how was the feature called? It's mutating admission policy, the one that's 132 alpha right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at that. sounds very interesting. Actually, I was when like working on this, I was getting incredibly sad while looking at how the webhooks are designed right now. That they basically fail silent a lot of times. If you don't run your own Kubernetes control plane, you often don't have access to the necessary logs to even alert on this stuff. And stuff like certificates not being pulled from secrets, but basically like just raw docked into the resource, like stuff like that. So it's nice to see some development there. And actually I have to read through those. 132, fresh off the presses. Nice. Okay, cool.
So I wouldn't, you would need to use both in this case, but at least you get a little bit more graceful of a failure mode.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have a little bit of a big stupid today, so I'm not sure if I push to the right branch. Yeah, I have the big stupid today. Nice. I'm going to fix that later. Okay, cool.
But yeah, your clear configurable sleep time. Was there any other comment that anyone else had?
No.
Yeah,
Is that a
the
comment?
comments for the signal channel.
Oh yeah, that was more just I was curious because 2 seemed very specific rather than I thought it was like a
I added the comments already in the PR.
Cool.
Oh,
Thanks.
sweet.
Yeah, but I think overall it's a good thing to do anyway, just to follow good practice. I'm actually surprised nobody asked for this already.
Well, and that it's not been upstream. Like per his point, like I think people just haven't noticed because frankly I don't think there's a lot of eyes on.
I mean, I've noticed like sometimes when I test, it's like, it will say it's ready, but it's not really, right? Like I've noticed that, but it's just because it's fail open, most of the time you just like way longer. Yeah.
You know the interesting part while we are working on this, and this took us like 2 days to fully understand what's happening there. There are basically 2 failure modes, like root causes that are addressed with this PR. One of them is the readiness probe indicating readiness when it's not actually ready. And the second one is the gatekeeper pod shutting down before the services are disconnected or the endpoints are removed and propagated to the routing tables of the nodes. And basically we noticed if we have a rising edge, like scaling from 0 to 100 gatekeeper pods, we get connection failures. And if we scale down, we get connection failures.
Right.
So yeah, it was very interesting to debug, and we basically had to like run a curl in a loop and see what happens, because you're so unlikely to trigger it while running like in regular test setups. So yeah, that was very interesting. Yeah.
Thanks for the change.
And again, yeah, no worries. Also going to probably at least the timeout setup, and I set up before, but I think you weren't there yet. I'm also going to basically take the code I've written here and put it to the controller runtime for a PR. Sounds reasonable, I think.
Oh, sorry, which PR to controller runtime?
There's like the controller setup signal handler, which was there before. I redid it with the timeout. I'm going to open a PR with them to also include this, because it affects basically everything that's using webhooks.
Yeah,
And
I guess
controller.
the other comment I would have is if you can file a PR against the controller runtime folks and then put a comment linking to that PR in the code.
Oh yeah.
So we can
Absolutely.
revert back to using signal handler.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, yeah, of course, like clean up the dirty hacks again. Cool. Then I'm going to think about something to make the timeout configurable. Wire that up. I'm just going to ping you guys again, and yeah, I mean, thanks for like taking a look right now. I actually didn't expect that, but very nice of you.
No, thank you for filing the PR, and sorry you were waiting.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's all good. Cool.
Thank you for the PR.
So did we want to go to the meeting notes stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah. So I have two things, and the first one is the PR that I have up, which is ready for reviews. So Max, if you have some cycles, uh, do take a look at that. And then following up on our last week's discussion about disk driver. I did look at like FluentBit, Systlogs, and Log4j on how they do log rotations. So none of them really did delete stuff unless explicitly configured. FluentBit didn't have any mechanism to do so to begin with. Like they don't do log rotations. I think you have to write custom plugins or something like that to do it. And then system log and log4j, both of them had majorly two mechanisms. One was like time based approach where they would rotate the logs or archive it after a certain amount of time, and the other one was storage based approach where if the log file or log folder grows beyond certain size, they'll archive it and then clean up, I mean create the new things.
Yeah.
uh,
So I guess like the interesting thing here would be, how do these systems that slurp up the logs, like what is their expected interface with the thing that writes the logs, right? So like there's size-based rotation, but like who does the size, who determines, hey, it's big enough, it's time to rotate, right? And yeah, deletion, whether deletion happens or not, sure, but again, it's like who does it, right? Because the thing we're interested in is what's the sort of expected set of features that's kind of like the vanilla average of features that if you're using a log ingestion pipeline, you could probably use this thing we wrote and just plug into it.
Yeah, so like all of them were definitely configurable. So from the user persona's perspective, I think whoever was setting up the tool or the pipeline would be doing it. Uh, and in our case, that would be like whoever wants to export those violations or whoever is creating the connection object, basically.
Mm. Not necessarily. I mean, it's someone with access to the node, right? Is going to need, or the pod at least, if it's a sidecar,
Yeah,
is going to set up the scraping process.
yeah.
But you're right that the person who controls the flags that go into Gatekeeper is going to align the output of Gatekeeper with the expectations of the sidecar or the core daemon running on the node. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. Is this adding clarity or just confusion? Because the thing that matters to us is what do we need to do to play nicely with them, right? not necessarily like we're not necessarily looking at deletion, naming, or anything like that specifically. The first press is just, what do we need to look at, right? Like, what are their expectations?
Yeah, so on that front, like I talked to someone about this, and like the two requirement I got was one, it should modify, like the driver should modify the files once by indicating that they are ready once the audit results have been written in, and then the second one was it should dynamically clean up the oldest files. Uh,
So someone does want garbage collection.
yeah.
And Benjamin, yeah, to give some context here, so there's a library or an interface that we have that we were using for PubSub that was basically, if there's an event, it gets sent to this injected system that would then forward that event to some PubSub. And when I say event, I'm speaking pretty loosely. Right now, it's like audit events, right? So like the violations that get found in audit. I think there's going to eventually be something about like admission time violations. Maybe this gets into Gator, who knows? Just a generic way to plug in actual enforcement data flows. But Jay was also looking at, well, what if people just want to write out logs, right? They're using syslog or logstash, or I don't know what the I'd be curious to learn what, because you've talked to people, what systems they're using to slurp up the contents of these files and push them to a dashboard. So you're not stuck using standard Kubernetes standard out logs, or trying to use Prometheus as a way to ingest specific violation data.
I mean, most like from what I know and from my environment, most of the time you use something like how's it called? The thing from Loki or like FluentD, FluentBit, stuff like that. You ingest the log somewhere. The logging retention is a thing that's controlled by your logging engine. I just like basically what Loki is, but in like the 3 different versions with the 3 different heads from the 3 different vendors. So, and how many people are actually using like active enforcement after like a violation is logged? Do you have any data on this? I'm very curious.
I don't know that we do. Like, we would have no way of getting visibility on that. Also, like, active enforcement of audit violations could mean many things, right? Like, if you have like a compliance focused people, maybe they're just interested in driving that number to 0 over time, and they want a dashboard and they want to be able to drill down and see the violating resources. Or you could have like nagging notifications, right, where they figure out who owns this resource and send them the violations until people send the tickets to 0, right? Like post facto fixes. The only like aggressive solution, and Gatekeeper doesn't do this that I'm aware of, is like Cloud Custodian, and I think also Azure Policy has like a delete, or Azure Policy is like remediation stuff, last I checked. And yeah, Cloud Custodian has delete behavior, which is like aggressive and somewhat scary, right? Like if you get that wrong, you can really bork your system. On the other hand, if you'd rather a bork system than an insecure one, that's a feature, right? Like not everyone has the same risk.
Look, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Let's just say it.
Yes, yes, because that sounds incredibly dangerous and like a bad time.
But it is a feature for other solutions, yeah. But also to add that why this is important also is a lot of times organizations want to understand what the deny impact would be. So they usually start by audit.
Yeah. They want to see what happens if I like enable the
That's
big
right.
fat delete
Like you want to
button
see
or
how
something.
many things that could possibly break. Yeah.
So, yeah, we made things more or less clear for you, Jay.
I think a little bit, and I think the cleanup part also makes sense. Like we don't want to archive or not clean up because, let's say, if some user doesn't configure it right, or if they are using some plugin and they are not cleaning up on their side, we don't want to be consuming node storage uh, indefinitely. So cleaning just makes sense
And
there.
yeah, Benjamin, you were talking about FluentD and these 3 libraries and various vendors. Are they also do they have log producing libraries or just log consumption libraries?
There are just like ingestion middlewares, I guess. They take data from somewhere trademark and put them somewhere trademark, and annotate them with some structured data like pod, node, cluster, like basically dynamic data that makes it a little bit more searchable and discoverable in backends like Loki. So they don't do any retention handling. They do a little bit of stuff in the direction of back pressure and reliability control, so they can have ingestion limits or stuff like this. But they are incredibly dumb. They don't do very little. You don't even get exposure to stuff like log retention in the backend there. That's all handled like 2 steps further, like from what you're controlling with Gatekeeper. And I mean, the PubSub interface sounds very interesting. But I would assume if I had, like, we have to do, there's like this thing in Germany right now. It's called C5 compliance for like medical and critical infrastructure stuff. And we have to do that. And we have a lot of fun with that right now as a cloud provider. And we have to build all the fun audit things right now. And we're doing a lot of stuff just via logging and metrics. Logging metrics and ingesting that somewhere and processing somewhere. And we haven't even, like, we're not at the point where we say we want to do more than that. I mean, I'm not sure where we are at with telemetry, like telemetry, but we're basically doing logging and metrics and some like stuff like Kubernetes audit logging right now. And as far as I know, this is one of the most aggressive regulatory environments to be in, like SANS being like government, secret services and stuff. It's very aggressive. It's like hundreds of pages of like all of the compliance. So I think we have a very aggressive use case, and we're making do with logging here. So I mean, and that's again problem of the adopter, I guess.
Well, I kind of actually agree with the like in terms of like being the most secure, right? Like logging is the most amenable to encryption and the least amenable to snooping.
Oh, and it's incredibly lazy to implement. That's also very important. The tooling is very good. You don't have to do anything custom. Most people already have like a Grafana. How's it called? LAMP? No. How's the stack of Grafana, Loki?
Not elk. That's Cabana.
Yeah, exactly. But they basically have like a Grafana and a Prometheus and a Loki running somewhere, and basically repurposing it for this kind of stuff. Because it's very reliable, it's quite cheap to host, and I mean, you can do it with some pods and an S3 backend, and you're good for like a very, very long time. So yeah.
Yeah, and what we're trying to, I think, do with Jay's change here is we realize that this pluggable pub sub thing actually creates a listening point for those like actually salient logs, right? Versus the standard out logs. It's, you know, we have the semantic logging thing, so you can kind of like filter on JSON fields and identify. But if you want to configure specifically, I only want to look at this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you want to shunt it off to a place where
Actually,
that specifically lives.
that ecosystem for scraping logs from the disk, last time I checked, it was like a year ago. Most of the tools don't support that very well. They don't support it via annotations and a daemon set. They only support it if you basically hook in a sidecar into your pod that's producing the logs and you share the directory and stuff like this, which is annoying to configure, to say the least. And I think the only vendor that did that I've worked with was Datadog. Datadog has some stuff where you can basically, it's a little bit insane. You do a label with some inline, with like some JSON in there, and you can basically pass it a config file per pod, and the daemon set sees it and basically does a thing and begins scraping disk logs. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, probably basically a fluent bit sidecar or something would probably be the idea, like an officially supported one.
And if you can choose the right destination, right? So your WRIT destination, then you're not stuck with the infrastructure default destination, which might, for some stacks, make it easier to take the sidecar approach, right? Because you're not relying on being able to see all containers logs in the pod, for instance. You can write to a shared disk.
Yes. I mean, I guess so. I was thinking anti-Rernio should be good for most setups, but you might have a point there. I haven't looked into the stuff that deeply. If there's like logging, I mean, there are probably some like legacy logging solutions that work that way, but I'm very curious about the intersection of using Gatekeeper, having an ancient logging solution. The companies that are in that intersection, I really want to talk to these people just out of like morbid curiosity, but that's besides the point. Sorry about that.
It's not about like ancient, it's about read access, right? And whether and also who has permissions to do what, right? So if every pod, right, like, because my rough understanding of this is basically it's like the output of the pod is piped into whatever the logger ingester is for whatever Kubernetes provider you have, right? And that writes the pod logs to like the node somewhere, right? And one thing I could say, I think pretty safely, is like a security isolation concern, is one pod cannot view another pod's logs, right? And so the question is then, can sidecars view each other's logs, right? And so that depends on, I think, how they choose to do that setup. And then
Okay, what logs are we talking about? Like logs to a file system or logs to standard out? Because standard out logs are a Kube API thing, as far as I
standard
know. Yeah,
because
you have to access the Kubernetes API or you have to access the underlying node to get those logs. So I would say sidecars probably can't see each other's logs, or like containers in the same pod cannot see their like the logs of the other containers in the same pod. So what you basically would have to do is share out basically what Jay was talking about. Write the logs to the disk, stop it up somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is unblocking, in addition to the pub sub thing, for free, well, not for very low cost. We get the ability to say, hey, these specific logs,
and now I think I get what the problem is with like log retention and disk congestion and all of this. I wouldn't call it nonsense, but like these problems, because they like definitely exist. You also get, I mean, you can basically choose between having it 100% reliable and being like every violation gets logged, and if it doesn't get read, no new stuff is added. Or you probably, if you're too slow with reading the logs, you will lose data.
But I mean, audit is periodic, so I don't know if we want to do like not delete unless it's read from, because it's going to come up anyway.
I mean, I think that's somewhat moot. Like, I think we're thinking too specific here.
Yes.
So the division of responsibility between whatever log ingestion system and gatekeeper, right? Because gatekeeper offers the ability to clean up old logs, let's just pretend we do that, doesn't mean that the user needs to enable it if the ingestion system can handle it, for instance. So gatekeeper could happily keep writing logs until it runs out of disk if, for whatever reason, the ingestion system goes down. Conversely, if there's an ingestion system that doesn't handle rotation, maybe gatekeeper can. And so the question in my mind was always, okay, what are the interfaces here, right? Like, do ingestion systems expect specific file names, or like, how do they handle the rotation? Who does the rotation, and what are the different flavors of that contract, or the different popular libraries? And then hopefully there's some set of flags or configurations that we can offer that let users tailor the behavior to fit at least the most popular libraries, right? So like that could be a file name format, for instance, if they need to reliably know which log precedes which other log. It could be whether we're writing out those like bastion values, whether those bastion values need to be at the beginning and end of the file, or whether that can handle, multiple, like, write complete in the same file stream. There's a bunch of different ways I could see it being sliced. I don't know which ones are salient is the question, right? And so that's the fact finding.
How is the log, like, is there a name for how like legacy Linux VM stuff does log rotation? There's
syslog,
like, yes, there's syslog, and with the like .1, .2, I'm sorry, I don't know how this is called. Basically, doing that with some retention. Most logging. Oh, wow, Jay's going crazy. Doing that with some, like, okay, retain X megabyte, retain X hours or whatever, should be good, because I'm not sure if anyone has been crazy enough to basically do like ring buffer logs. Basically writing and deleting from the top, like writing on the bottom, deleting from the top, and basically having a sliding window. That sounds a little bit insane, and it's cool, but it's a little bit insane.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a chat. Yeah.
Also, is there an ability to have like multiple like log streams, like you have with a bash? You have a standard out, you have a standard error, and you can, I think, define more channels. Is there a way in Kubernetes to expose this kind of functionality?
Not in Kubernetes. I think that's an open question whether in Gatekeeper we would, because you could imagine audit writing out to a different log stream than admission logs, for instance.
Yes. And in that way, you could basically like circumvent all of you have to design the thing yourself. If you can somehow with the Kubernetes API get those logs, you don't have to handle like disk pressure. You don't have to handle rotation stuff. It's all basically done by Kubernetes as the underlying system. And am I correct in assuming that Gatekeeper basically is coupled one-to-one to Kubernetes and there is no like other supported platform?
If Gatekeeper specifically, I would say yes. The idea of constraints and templates, that's a bit more open-ended. And then there's Gator, right, which is running, it's not running on Kubernetes, but it's sort of coupled to manifests, right? So that's running on like as a Git pre-submit hook, for instance.
I see.
Hi. I think with regard to like piping these two different standard Kubernetes logging mechanisms, like if you had a sidecar that basically just slurped up the file logs, spewed them to standard out, and then deleted them as it read them, like you could create a shim that does that. But I think Kubernetes itself only expects the one log stream per process.
There's a feature 132 alpha disabled by default behind a feature gate that allows splitting standard out and standard error into two separate log streams by container. It's not that you can do more than those right now, but
Interesting.
yeah. Actually, this is very interesting. I'm going to read this anyway. But okay, I'm sorry. I basically hijacked half of this thing. It's like 8 in the evening here. I'm going to drop off now, and maybe we'll see each other.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And so
coming.
again,
In. Don't be a stranger. All right. Thanks.
no worries. Bye. See you.
Bye. Has this been helpful, Jay, or has this been like?
It's I'm like now more confused on what I need to do.
I mean, so this is user empathy, right? Like, there's logging ingestion systems, right? I'm a user. I have my ingestion system. How do I configure Gatekeeper to work with it? And sort of the underspecified part of that phrase is which ingestion system, right? And so we go, well, the popular ones. Well, what are the popular ones, right? And then once you have that, like, are they actually different from each other? Or if we just like have the same behaviors, we're fine. So then there's some comparative analysis there. Then once we know the sets of behaviors, the question is, okay, well, how do we, if they're not all the same behavior, what configuration knobs does Gatekeeper need, right? Like, and now it's going to get very hand wavy because we don't know the behaviors, but that's where I start talking about like file names and like when exactly does it rotate and how does it rotate? Like, are we concerned about swapping the file handle? Is there like a done signal? Like all of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff we can still make it configurable through the connection object itself.
Mhm.
For example, how many number of, like, let's say if you're doing a file per audit run, then how many number of audit runs would be saved on disk before gatekeeper actually starts cleaning up, if not done already by the like consumer. Then another one is the file name or the file extension. When can gatekeeper has already written all the audit violations, like what should it be modified to so that the reader can actually ingest it.
But
uh,
my presumption is that all of them can be configured at
yeah,
that
yeah,
level.
yeah, but I mean, to, like, how do I start with figuring out what is a popular tool and how are they consuming the violations, unless, like, we write a driver and then somebody comes back around saying, hey, I need this from this driver.
Well, I think we've had a good start, right? We've talked with Benjamin just now, and he mentioned, and I think Sertash, you had also mentioned last week, Fluent D and company. You've talked with another user who was using something specific, so we can add whatever that solution is into the mix. You could like Google, uh, like log ingestion products, Kubernetes or whatever. Like, I don't know if Logstash is still popular. I use it because that's the last thing I've heard of when this, the last time actually implementing this was like a problem I was facing. Um, uh, I think our syslog is still a going concern, whether that's at a user level or at a platform level, I'm not sure. But yeah, so there's a couple of candidates we're aware of that we could also validate popular or not. If they're not popular, that's fine. I am truly just going off the top of my head. I have no like must, work with this agenda. Yeah, and if we get it wrong, that's okay, right? The goal is just to address the most people possible, and ideally also, um, if we can avoid painting ourselves into a corner such that we need to like scrap it and write a different one, or write two different ones, like, that's good, but we know that we can, and it won't be so hard because we have this pluggable system, so it's not fatal. And so we could use that kind of like, what is the downside sort of knowledge to sort of time box how much effort do we spend avoiding being wrong, right? Because if it's like, well, the whole project dies if it's wrong, then you want to spend a lot of time to like really minimize the chance of being wrong. But if it's like, well, it's annoying, but it's fine, then just like, try not to be. And I think we're closer to that second situation here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll look at. I actually googled, and like Grafana, Loki, Elasticsearch, Datadog, Fluentbit. Those are the names that came up. So I'm gonna do some reading on that then.
Yeah, and just look for common high level behaviors that they're expecting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I think I have the next steps done. Do look at that PR if you have a chance, so that we can get it merged, and I can
Yeah,
like if.
I've been real bad at the PRs. Yeah. Um, uh, where is it? Where is the? I missed the meeting notes. There they are. This 3646. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll look today. Yeah, this is large enough that I can't just do this right now. But it's probably fine. I left a first round of comments. I don't remember there being like major ones. Do we have anything else? Sorry, Sertash and Rita. I feel like we've dominated the conversation.
Oh, no worries. Good chat today.
Cool. If nothing else, then I'll see you next week.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Yeah.